Welcome back to the Serve Safe playlist. If you are watching through the playlist, then welcome to the next video. So last video, I talked a little bit about food allergens. I wanted to talk more about food allergens because it's extremely important. Obviously, if somebody's allergic to something, they could potentially die. Right now, there are about 160 different food items that can cause an allergic reaction. For allergic reaction, we have the things people normally expect, like wheezing, hives. You can also get abdominal pain, and what people see most in TV shows and stuff like that, which is the swelling of the face. Sometimes symptoms can be mild, and something that I've been told quite a few times by different people in my life that are allergic to things is that they started out with mild allergies. So they may have eaten shellfish or peanuts or something, and then they had a little bit of an itch. It wasn't that big of a deal, but then the next time they had it, it like exploded and their immune system just went freaking haywire. You're going to have an allergic reaction, or if you've had an allergic reaction from eating restaurant food in the past, I'd love to hear about it down in the comments. It says in the book, itchiness as being one of the symptoms. A lot of the times where the itchiness will start out will be in around like the ankles and wrists and sensitive areas, and then it will get to the point where it's all over the body. You know, face swelling could be mild or super serious. Hives don't have to be big, thick welts. They can be like little patches of rashes as well. The big 8 are dairy and eggs, fish, shellfish, nuts, tree nuts, wheat.
While editing, I accidentally edited out where I said soy, so I'm just adding it in here really quick. Soy is one of the big 8.
Now, as long as you know the big 8, generally speaking, in a restaurant, you're going to be pretty good. If somebody comes in and they say they have an allergy to strawberries, so just make sure not to make anything near or around strawberries, or don't handle strawberries and then handle their food. You know, it's a real thing. There's people that are allergic to strawberries. There's been a lot of talk about people that have a gluten intolerance or a gluten allergy. There are people that are severely allergic to gluten to the microgram, and they may not even be able to go to a pizza place that makes their own dough just because of like microscopic flour that's like in the air. You know, like it's crazy. When you look at food labels, most food labels have to have one of the big 8, especially if it's one of the big 8. You'll usually see it on the label. It'll say something like contains XYZ or may contain or whatever. There's been this recent thing going around where people are freaking out because they found out that their marshmallows have tilapia in them. So that's an over-exaggeration. What's really going on is that the gelatin in the tilapia is used in the marshmallow. So it says may contain traces of tilapia because tilapia is a fish and fish is an allergen. And if they don't put that on there, you know, America is a litigious place. Somebody will get sick or they'll have an allergic reaction because of eating marshmallows, and they'll be like, what the fuck? And then they find out that there was fish in the marshmallows or fish gelatin used in the marshmallows, and they could potentially sue Walmart. Another one was like something like syrup containing anchovies, but there's like an enzyme or something. I'm not an expert on this, but there's a chemical element in the anchovies that help in the process of the maple syrup, but it's a fish. They have to list it. If you're making maple syrup yourself, or if you're making marshmallows, you're not going to go and get that. It's just that it's cheaper for these companies to do this, but they have to list it. Currently speaking, there's about 15 million Americans right now that have some type of allergy, and 200,000 people are admitted to the emergency room every single year because of an allergic reaction that they had to something. So just remember the label, the contains statement is what you're looking for. Your staff should be trained on the big 8 100% of the time. They should know what all 8 of the main allergies are and be prepared to handle new allergies. This is actually why it's important that they are able to describe the dishes. They don't have to use excruciating detail, but they can make a point to say, you know, this is how it's made. We use milk in this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people, they will just not go out to eat because they're too scared that the cooks are going to be lazy and they're not going to take it seriously, or they're going to think like, oh, they're just trying to pull a fast one. They just don't like tomatoes. Or, oh, there was tomatoes on it that says they have a tomato allergy. Let me just pull those tomatoes off and now it's okay. It is far from fucking okay. Make sure to double check and confirm a dish that has the allergen. When you put your food up in the window and the servers come to take it, the servers should be confirming with you that there is no allergens. This is the allergen-free dish 100%, especially if you have multiple copies of something. Some things that cooks will let slide, for example, so if somebody has a gluten allergy and it's a legitimate gluten allergy. Well, gluten doesn't break down at 350 degrees, and most fryers are at 350 degrees. I believe, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, and don't take this as gospel, but I believe gluten breaks down closer to like the 500 degree mark. So you have chicken tenders in there, and some of those flour particles get into the fryer, and then you have a gluten-free order of whatever, cauliflower wings, you're gonna make it with rice flour and buttermilk or whatever. You put those in the fryer with the same crap is normally fried that's like breaded, and now it doesn't really matter if the initial food didn't have an allergen on it. It now has, you know, little pieces of gluten on it, and somebody could potentially get really sick. So the only workaround for that would be as if you had a clean fryer that you could use that isn't on, or one that's dedicated just to special orders. Maybe if you have a smaller setup so you could handle allergen orders. Ultimately, it gets to a point where if you can't accommodate an allergy, you have to be honest with the guests. Don't just do it anyway. They would much rather you just be honest and be like, unfortunately, these cauliflower wings are gluten-free, but as far as an allergen goes, we cook them in the fryer, and the fryer has wheat products in it, so there isn't really a way to fry them. Then you can suggest maybe doing something else. See if there's another way that you can prepare it for them, or pick a different menu item or whatever. It's unfortunate when that happens, but they are much happier that you are honest with them and are like, look, this is the way it is. Then the other thing is cross-contact. So somebody has a fish allergy, you cook salmon and tilapia in this one part of the grill, maybe it's a lower temp or whatever. You get an order for something that has a fish allergy. People think like, well, there's no fish on there and I scraped it, so it'll be okay. But again, it's not okay. That section of the grill needs to be completely clean and free of anything. Like different knives, different gloves, different everything. So avoiding cross contact. Check recipes and ingredient lists to make sure that the allergen is not present. And as I alluded earlier, wash, rinse, and sanitize all food contact surfaces. Food prep surfaces are one of these, as well as utensils, smallwares, all that kind of stuff. There's actually places now that will have specifically marked things that are supposed to always be allergen free, so you don't even have to worry about it. You may have seen them in your restaurant. If you currently are working in a restaurant, they look like this. Make sure that if you are working with an allergen and you know that somebody is in there, that allergen is not touching anything related to the guest food. This includes utensils, gloves, all that kind of stuff. You really should be changing your gloves more frequently. Like, that shouldn't even need to be a thing. But I know that sometimes time might get away from you. Generally speaking, we know when to change gloves. It's when we handle, you know, hazardous food like chicken, raw beef, stuff like that. But realistically, you should be changing them more than that anyway. Washing your hands pretty frequently. Using separate fryers or cooking oils when cooking food that have been identified as an allergen potential. Make sure that if you are packaging food like grab and goes, for example, or bakery items or whatever, make sure to list any of the common allergens, the big 8 that I listed before. Make sure to list those as well. You don't usually need to label them with rare allergies like red dye number 5, strawberries, bananas, stuff like that. But like it's the big 8. Now, it's really important that you learn what all of the allergic reaction signs are, because like I said, this is Manager ServSafe certified. This is where the road starts to divide a little bit from a regular ServSafe. You need to be able to identify what these symptoms are, what they look like, so you know how to handle them. The other things that could come up on the test, when I talked about describing the dishes, identifying the ingredients, identifying allergen special orders, things that you need to do to prepare for the order, food delivery, labeling the food correctly, cross-contact, all the information on cross-contact. Those are the two. You get those down and your allergen, your section on allergen is gonna be pretty well, because it talks about the allergens, everything that I talked about, and then the chapter is then over at that point. Now, study questions. Study questions to help you prepare. What are the most common symptoms of foodborne illness? 2, how does most contamination of food happen? Number 3, what is the most important way to prevent foodborne illness from bacteria? What is the most important way to prevent a foodborne illness from viruses? Number 5, Parasites are commonly linked with what type of food? Number 6, a guest had a reversal of hot and cold sensations after eating seafood. What most likely caused this illness? Number 7, a prep cook stores a bottle of sanitizer on a shelf above a prep table to prevent chemical contamination. What should be done differently? Number 8, to prevent the deliberate contamination of food, a manager should know who is in the facility, monitor the security of products, keep information related to food security on file, and know this. Number 9, what should food handlers do to prevent food allergens from being transferred to food? Number 10, what steps should be taken if a manager suspects foodborne illness outbreaks? Take these study questions while you are watching my videos. If you have your own ServSafe book, or you can look them up online, make sure you know what the answers are. So in the test, it's going to be multiple choice, but if you know offhand what the answers are, without having to pick and choose from a list, and you just know, like, how does most contamination of food happen? You just know it. You'll see it and right immediately on the test. You'll be like, boom, that's what it is. If you have any questions about the videos, leave them in the comments below. If you are struggling with any particular part of the ServSafe Manager stuff, getting set up or whatever, let me know. As always, you can email the 86th Street Project at Gmail with any questions, concerns, or whatever, and I can help you out. The next chapter is going to be chapter 3, the safe food handler. Otherwise, you guys have an awesome day, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.